The time of the Olympics is a time that more people will be trafficked into the UK.
Girls who are trafficked from really rural regions where there's really high literacy rates.
It is happening here. I have come across it professionally with women who have been enslaved, really, made to work as prostitutes, work with as many as, 60 clients a day. I'm talking about severe abuse.
It's quite a devastating but fairly typical story of what girls are going through.
It is a new form of modern slavery, really.
People have come in and said, this is happening in London, shocked that this is happening in London. So people are maybe aware of the issue, but they're not aware that it's happening in this neighborhood, in this very neighborhood it's happening.
They think it's maybe exploiting people in other parts of the world, but not really in developed countries like the UK, the US, Western Europe. So they're really surprised to hear that there is human trafficking in London, in the United States.
It's happening in Greece, it's happening in Europe.
It's happening all over the UK, it's happening all over the world.
Everywhere that people can exploit other people's wishes and dreams for a better future.
It can be sexual exploitation as well. It can be forced labor. A lot of the time people are seeing these kids on the streets begging, thinking that, that they're criminals or they're by choice, but this is really, another form of extreme exploitation. People coming from, extreme poverty and discrimination in their own countries and coming here and working in the streets as forced beggars and stealing. So stealing iPhones, money, begging, and making up to £100,000 a year for their traffickers.
People of all ages, both genders, are exploited when it comes to forced labor, and they're brought usually to a different country under false pretenses.
Often maybe they'll pay a fee to come over thinking that they're coming to get a good job or to work in the UK and to be able to have this better life.
And then basically they're working in someone's household, in someone's business, on a farm. It can be a variety of different work environments, but they're paid very little or nothing.
And if there happens to be a raid done by the police, often again they're treated as criminals instead of as victims.
Often beaten, often exploited, physically abused.
And sometimes they're maybe paid a really small salary that is insignificant here but might be a lot for their family back home. They actually don't really realize that they're maybe a victim. And
without anyone knowing about them, if they have no contacts in the new country, they're off the grid. They're not spotted.
It's been in the media. There's been some Hollywood films that have come out. Something that a lot of people might be talking about. I definitely don't see that as a negative thing, but I don't believe that that necessarily translates into action.
Often, for victims of human trafficking, it's not the police that are the first ones to rescue them. Sometimes it's just someone in a community noticing something odd in a situation, just an average citizen like you, like me, like anyone on the street, kind of having the eyes to see something's not right there, something's unusual, that child's alone, or just noticing something unusual in a situation and reporting it to a hotline or to the police.
And then having an NGO, maybe doing an awareness event, and then being familiar with the work, I think that that's a positive thing and may lead to eventually action taken if it's talked about and put in their face enough.
And that then lets the authorities go in and find victims of human trafficking and help them, rescue them, and arrest the criminals as well that are trafficking them.
When you know that there's 27 million people enslaved, and that's more than anybody in the course of history, it's hard not to want to be involved in some way or another.
I think hearing about that and seeing how rampant and how widespread this is, I don't know, it's almost you don't have a choice but to want to do something about it, and but to say, coming from a privileged country as a Canadian who has a lot of opportunities, as a woman who's had a lot of people fight battles for me in order so I can get an education and I can be, have a lot of equality that women don't have in a million other places. I think that I feel like I have a duty to do what I can to be an advocate and to try to do what I can to stop trafficking.